most of this out in post. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started with the reading. So, I still can't believe I'm holding it in my hands, honestly. Like, it doesn't feel like this is real, like it could be ripped if I find a page particularly unsightly. Like, yeah, the possibilities are endless. I'm excited. Okay, Chapter 1, Carmela. As Luisa and Rosita took off running for the surf, Carmela spread her blanket across the hot, dry sand. The beaches of Spain's Costa del Sol were bustling, but this tiny patch of coastline by the docks in front of the Moreno-Muñoz household was always empty. This glorious morning it begged for company, and their mother was begging to be left alone. So here they were. The crisp, salty April wind greeted Carmela by whipping around her, threatened to steal the colored pencils and sketchbook right out from where they were tucked under her arm. Thankfully, they stayed put, and Carmela had the chance to settle down, cross-legged, facing the sea. Keeping an eye on her 6-year-old twin sisters, she opened up to a fresh page and waited for inspiration. And waited, and then waited a little longer. Lately, inspiration was hard to come by. Even watching Luisa and Rosita play did little to stir her muse. Carmela! Rosita, breathless, placed a whole conch shell beside Carmela's left thigh, then ran back into the waves. Luisa came right up behind her and dropped 3 pieces of sea glass, one teal, one pale blue, and one the same shade as the sea foam speckling the shore. She, too, scurried back, threatening to splash Rosita as she shrieked and stumbled out of the way. Carmela rolled her eyes, but she had to admit that they seemed to be having more fun than she was. She hadn't created a decent piece of artwork in months, and she couldn't put her finger on why. December. All I have to do is wait until December. Again, Luisa and Rosita came sprinting and soaking wet, their small hands filled with seashells. Simultaneously, they released another bounty: scallop shells, clam shells, abalone shells, and half a dozen pieces of sun-bleached coral. Luisa inhaled, then blurted out in the span of one breath, "Can you keep all of these safe for us?" Carmela sighed. "Luisa, sweetheart, you and Rosita have filled Lord knows how many jars with souvenirs from this beach, and you never do anything with them. They just sit on the shelves collecting dust." Rosita pouted. "But we like them." Before Carmela could respond, Luisa yanked on Rosita's arm. "Did you see that fish jump?" "No way!" And off they went again. Something about the way the shells landed drew Carmela's eye. She pushed the conch shell closer to the larger of the 2 abalone shells. Then she arranged the sea glass from lightest to darkest in color. When the rest of the shells were placed just so, she pulled out a pencil and started sketching the curves and exaggerating the roundness, and shading exactly the wrong way. Nothing Picasso would be impressed with, she lamented as she took to the page with an eraser and rubbed frantically, her brow furrowed. "What are you doing?" Carmela jumped an inch when Luisa chirruped over her shoulder. "What are you doing scaring me like that?" Luisa shrugged. "But what are you doing?" Rosita emerged from the sea sopping wet, waddled over, and plopped herself on the blanket. "Can I see?" Carmela relented, turning the sketchbook outward for Rosita to see, but being careful to keep it out of reach of wet hands. Luisa walked around Carmela to sit beside Rosita and study the drawing. They were both quiet for a long moment. Carmela half expected something mature and wise beyond their years to pour out of their mouths, or offer advice that would open up her eyes to her own untapped potential. Instead, Rosita asked, "Why do the shells look so weird?" "Well, I'm not finished yet." Luisa's face scrunched up. "Yeah, but why do they look weird now?" "Because I'm practicing making my art look like Pablo Picasso's." Carmela turned her sketchbook back around and went back to erasing. "You remember the pictures I showed you in my books, right?" "Yeah," Luisa said, "but his had people in them and yours had seashells." Rosita grew wide-eyed. "Are you going to marry Senor Picasso?" "No, Rosita, she can't marry Senor Picasso." Luisa rolled her eyes. "He's old, probably." Rosita burst into giggles, and, succumbing to their silliness, Carmela set aside her art supplies and launched herself at the twins, furiously tickling them, one hand on each girl's tummy. Rosita tried to wiggle out from underneath and slip her fingers under Carmela's chin. Pushing the hand away with the side of her face, Carmela redoubled her efforts, and the little girls screamed with delight. When all 3 of the Moreno-Muñoz daughters were thoroughly exhausted, Carmela called for a ceasefire, asked the twins to fold up the blanket, and gathered her art supplies. "Clearly, it's time for lunch," she said between chuckles, "because all the seawater has rushed to your heads and made you two particularly giggly." Luisa and Rosita whined half-heartedly as they trudged up the sand behind their sister. Carmela tuned them out, thinking instead of seashells and other charms of the beach and her small town. The same charms she'd been sketching, drawing, and painting her whole life. They were fine, but she was ready for a change of scenery. Luckily, a change of scenery was on the horizon. She only had to wait 8 more months for her respite. The Moreno-Muñoz residence was perched on the corner of Calle Vientos and Calle Travieso. It looked much the same as the other houses on those streets, small, with a red tile roof and stucco walls. But neither Carmela nor the twins ever confused it with any other house, because only theirs smelled so irresistible at mealtime. After kicking off their shoes by the front door, Luisa and Rosita ran straight to the dinner table. Set out before them was a spread King Alfonso VIII would envy. Freshly baked bread, asparagus, rice, and a stew of potatoes, legumes, pork, and carrots. There was nothing special about the ingredients themselves, really, but something about the way Abuelita prepared them. She refused to say how, even now, when gently reminded that her recipes ought to be passed on to future generations. Made your taste buds sing her praises. Carmela placed her sketchbook and art supplies on the sofa. She returned the blanket to the basket by the doorway and joined everyone at the table. Her aunt, Beatriz, had already come out of her room with baby Betito in her arms. Abuelita was fussing over the twins sneaking bites before saying grace, and Carmela's mother was just setting down the last of the drinks when Carmela's father tramped down the stairs. Every mouth pressed into a thin line. Carmela bristled, ready for bad news or admonishment, but no one said a word. Instead, he held hands with those on either side of him, Tia Beatriz and Carmela's mother, and led them in the Lord's Prayer. Its consonants were razor-sharp, with none of the usual swallowing of syllables he took to when he was feeling anything but irritated. Carmela kept her eyes closed slightly longer than necessary. When she opened them, every gaze was fixed on her. Her father tossed 2 scraps of paper onto the table. She recognized them instantly. One of them was a train ticket. By itself, that might not have evoked such ire, but the second piece of paper was a ticket to the Barcelona International Exposition. Both of them were for a party of one. "What are these, Carmen Alicia?" Carmela's father said, his diction as crisp as an apple. Carmela paled. Her parents only used her double-barreled first name when she was in trouble. "I just purchased them yesterday. I was going to tell you tonight that I'd made plans to go." "I didn't see any tickets for the rest of your family on top of your dresser." Carmela's father picked up his fork and pierced a piece of asparagus. "Can I take that to mean you think you'll be traveling 1,000 kilometers alone?" Carmela's face flushed. She swirled the chunks of pork in her stew with her spoon. "Well, I didn't figure you all would care to go, and—" "That we would care to go?" Carmela's father tossed down his fork. "Did you think we'd suddenly stop caring about where you were as well? Not only where you were, but how you were going to get there, how you were going to afford to get there, and back for that matter." "But you don't have to worry about any of that, Poppy. I've been saving up since they announced Barcelona would host an expo back in '28. She focused her eyes on the painting hanging above her father's head. 4 2 red, 2 large apples, and a 2 blue bowl. She'd painted it when she was 7 or so, after seeing a similar painting in a book she'd thumbed through at the library. She'd also hung it herself without asking permission, much to her parents' and Abuelita's chagrin. "And besides, I heard a rumor that Senor Picasso might be—" Her grandmother tisked, and every head turned in her direction. "Are you on that again? Just because you're both from Malaga doesn't mean you were birthed with the same talents." That stung. Carmela looked to her mother for help, but she said nothing, her eyes studying her plate a little too thoroughly. Betito was the only one who dared to make any noise, just babble, mimicking the conversation he'd just heard, and that was only because he didn't know any better. Luisa broke the silence. "May I be excused? I'm full." Rosita pushed away her plate. "Yeah, me too." Their mother and aunt exchanged frowns and held a discussion no one else could hear. Then Beatrice said as she rose from her seat and shifted her baby to her hip, "Come with me, girls. I'll bet you're not too stuffed to split one of those peaches we have left in the kitchen." The twins scraped their chairs across the tile floor and made a beeline for their treats. Carmela watched them with envy. Her father picked up right where he left off. "You are absolutely not permitted to go zipping all along the country. What's next, a holiday in France?" Carmela crossed her arms. At 26 years old, I think I'm old enough now to travel alone. I'm no ingenue. Maria Alicia, perhaps emboldened by her two younger daughters' absence, Carmela couldn't be sure, piped up. I was traveling without a chaperone when I met you, Louise. Carmela's father gestured to her. You see, your mother supports my view. She snuck out at 16 to go to a bar, and look at the mess she got herself into while no one was around to give her a warning. Her parents exchanged smiles. Even after all the years they'd been together, they still flirted with each other at every possible opportunity. And their flirtation now was a sign that her father could still be persuaded. But Poppy, Carmela continued, Picasso could be there. You know meeting him would be like a dream come true for me. Abuelita scoffed. Exactly, it's a dream, and it should stay that way. Maria Alicia reached across the dinner table to put her hand over Abuelita's. A girl is allowed to have dreams and even intentions to pursue them, don't you think? Why, look where all that got you. You're no famous flamenco dancer, are you? You're a fisherman's wife, and you're lucky to be that. My fool husband and I wanted a restaurant, and look where that got us. Maria Alicia winced, and once again everyone else at the table was stunned into silence. Carmela watched tears gather in the corners of her mother's eyes and suddenly felt like crying herself. You can go. Carmela's eyes snapped to meet her father's, but he was looking at her mother. Really? Oh, thank you, Poppy. I promise. Abuelita balked. You're just going to let her go after she went behind all of our backs? Luis shrugged at his mother. All right, fine. Don't listen to your good sense. But think about this, mijo. She could get hurt. She could be stolen away. She could be swept into some run-down hotel room on the side of the street, and all right. Carmela's father rubbed at his chin. You have a point. Carmela held her breath. Well, I suppose you could still go, if you can manage to procure tickets for Victor. Carmela could live with those terms. Victor was their neighbor, a childhood friend who now worked alongside her father as a fisherman. Everyone thought of Victor as the knight in shining armor to her princess. Always had, even when they were little. They weren't engaged, but everyone assumed they would be soon enough. But traveling together would be seen as her acceptance of their de facto betrothal. Carmela bit her lip. She'd never seen him in such light, and though she knew he had feelings for her. But if it meant she might get to breathe the same air as Pablo Picasso, she'd be willing to entertain the notion. He'd keep her safe, at least, if a little suffocated. Would this be the magical solo trip she imagined for herself? No, but this was as close as she was going to get. I'll take that deal. Chapter 2. Sebastian. Sebastian watched the shoreline of Manhattan recede as he tossed his apple up in the air and caught it before taking a bite. He bought it off one of the merchants in the street, selling them for a nickel, just before he boarded the ocean liner Aurania at 4 o'clock sharp that morning, before the sun painted the sky and the water in all its scarlet, orange, and golden splendor. How did that rhyme go? Red sky at night, sailor's delight. Red sky in the morning. Well, everything else had gone wrong in the world. Why not this voyage as well? Sebastian took a step back from the railing so others could wave their loved ones farewell. He had no family waving him off, and in fact, he hadn't even told them he was leaving for the old world. All they would have done is written back, emphatically begging him to save his pennies, telling him how silly it was to go on holiday now, of all the times to do it. The news of the stock market crash 2 months ago had shaken them. He wished he hadn't told them that the acquaintances of his... he wished he hadn't told them what the executives in his company were whispering, or that the acquaintances of his who worked more closely in finance were beginning to look a little pale, a little shaken. Most people were hopeful, but Sebastian and his family were prone to pessimism in situations like these. That was why he was going, actually. Why not have this one last opportunity to live it up, since he may soon have little left to lose? But his parents wouldn't have understood that logic. They also didn't understand why he abandoned the homestead to pursue a flashy career as a lawyer in a big city. If he was honest with himself, Sebastian might have admitted that even he was beginning to lose his grip on why he'd moved to New York City beyond the perks of working for a major firm in a booming economy. Perks like a wage hefty enough to support a not-too-shabby apartment on the Upper East Side and a nice little car. Perks like a raffle held 4 months before Black Thursday, 4 tickets to the Barcelona International Exposition, plus passage booked to and from Europe. A raffle Sebastian had won. After one quick wave to the Statue of Liberty, Sebastian took another bite of his apple, held his lone suitcase in front of his person as a shield against the other passengers, and took the first set of stairs he happened upon to wait out the 5-day voyage to Spain in the comfort of his stateroom. Before I scroll down to read your comments, I'm going to answer the comments, or answer the questions that I got on Instagram. Thank you for all the reactions, guys. Questions I got on Instagram. So Dawn asked what inspired me to write this, and I will tell you what inspired me to write this. So I have these worksheets from a woman named Eva Deverell, who is like amazing, like second to Writer's Atelier in writing resource people in my heart, second to Writer's Atelier. So she has this worksheet where you write out your ideas and then you rank them based on potential, how closely they align with what you want to do as a writer, how fast you can get them done, your enthusiasm for it, and how easy it is. I had lots of ideas. I had lots of ideas, but this one was blank. This last one was blank, and my brain refused to let me have a blank spot. So I was thinking, what could I fill this space with? And the idea for World's Fairs hit me, I believe because I'd recently finished The Paris Wife, which is a book about Ernest Hemingway's first wife, who went, and there's a scene in there in which she goes to the St. Louis World's Fair as a child. I think I was still like, that was cooking in my brain. And so like that popped into my head, and you can see these like lines right here. I thought of ways to connect almost every story I had percolate in the back of my mind or stuffed into Google Keep for safekeeping. Just about everything could connect to a World's Fair, or I could like twist some things around and make it connect. So that is how the series was born. And then Frances asked how long it took me to write the book. I started writing it, I think, 10 days before the end of National Novel Writing Month in 2019. I think it was about 10 days. I'm not sure on the numbers on that. And from that month to February was when it released, and I took about like a month or two of a break. So that's live math, ladies and gentlemen. I should have calculated this earlier, but you know, you live and you learn. We'll count December, January, February. Oh, I guess weird. Okay, maybe it was only like 3 months from start to finish. No, it was 4 months, I'm sorry, because it released on March 14th and it was on pre-order the 13th. So it was like 4 months from start to finish, with like a big breaks in between. I gave myself 6 months I think I started plotting it before then, but I gave myself 6 months from the release of Barcelona to the release of Buffalo. FuentesPens.inc/links. That's where you can find all the relevant links to things. Okay, let me start scrolling now. How does it feel to smell my words? It's great, actually. That was totally that was like the third thing I did when I got the book. The first thing I did was flip over to the back and see the errors. And then the second thing was laugh for a full minute. And then the third thing was smell the book. Oh, Jay, thank you. I'll read aloud what Jay said because I like it. He said, my friend crafts prose bestsellers. Wish they could. Love you, Megan. Oh, I love you too, Jay. Do you know if we can get a hard copy? I have not designed a hard copy cover for this book. I could, I guess, but it might take like a month or two because I'd have to design it. It's not Writers Atelier who's publishing, Dawn, it's me. I designed the cover and the insides and all that. So I would have to design a hardcover. It's a little thin for a hardcover. It's only about yay thick. So you might have to wait until we get the anthology where there will be like 3 other stories besides mine in there, and then you'll have like a nice thick hardcover. I guess we're making a hardcover of that, guys. Carrie said, too short. Oh, thanks. I should narrate the audiobook. Ooh, should I though? I have this thing where I jump between Spanish pronunciations and like Spanish light pronunciations, and then just saying it how anyone would say it whose first language is English. So as soon as I get that under control, maybe I would like to do an audiobook, honestly, because I like recording things. It's fun. Worksheet. Stephanie, thank you for saying worksheet because that reminded me. So if you subscribe to my newsletter, which you can do by going to fuentespens.inc/links and clicking on subscribe to my newsletter. If you do that, you get access to reader treats, which are just what I do. Like some people give away stories, some people give away full books, but I give away reader treats. So like, for example, there's an epilogue for In Barcelona With You that is not in this book. It is not in the ebook. It is not in the paperback. It can only be found through the reader treats. And that stars the the companion, the friend of Sebastian, who is the male love interest. Maybe I spoiled that. I don't know if that was a spoil or not. Oh well. What else? Crossword puzzles. I have like an actual puzzle I just made specifically for this event. I made a puzzle, like a cutout puzzle, piece it together. Word searches. In the crossword puzzle, one crossword puzzle tells you the next 5 locations that I'm going to be writing about, the next 5 World's Fairs. Just downloaded the worksheet, yay. Pre-ordered it yesterday. Yes, thank you, Dawn. In Buffalo With You, pre-ordered yesterday. What writer advice do I wish I had before I started that I learned during completing the story? Dig deep. Okay, it's not that I didn't have this advice. It's that I wasn't following it. And that is creating character arcs for both your lead gal and your lead guy, or your lead girls or your lead guys. So I originally, Carmela kind of had when I first wrote it, Carmela kind of had an arc, but not really. And then Sebastian's arc was like not much of anything, and that wasn't good. And so I was reading it back through, and the people who read the book in advance, like Carrie and things, were reading it through, and they were like, "There's a problem here. It's like there's no like growth between the two, even though there were like things happening. Like I had a plot, there was no like growth for the character." So that was something I wish I took to heart, versus like it'll come out, because I tend to plot the plot very hard, and then I don't. The characters show up at the door, and I just they just go down the pathways that I set, and I learn things about them as I write. Get your newsletters, the password in the newsletter to get the goodies. Yes, Dawn, there's a password that I give you in the newsletter. That is, you go to fuentespens.inc/reader treats, reader-treats, and you enter that password, and then you get the reader treats. Hearing words in Spanish brought me back to my grandmother's home as a kid. Oh, I'm glad, Jay. Sometimes knowing and using the advice can be game changers. Do I consider myself a plot-driven writer or a character-driven writer? I am such a plot-driven writer. It's insane. I don't know why character-driven. I admittedly haven't really tried to be a character-driven writer. Yeah, I did just answer your question, Angelique. But I am going to show you guys something, because it doesn't look like I have more questions in the moment. Hi, Tia. Tia, you guys, part of the reason that I know any Spanish whatsoever. I'm pretty sure everyone in this group knows, but I will say it anyway. I am half Hispanic. I am Cuban on my father's side. So another great reason to write about Spain is that I really didn't have to look up too much about Spanish, because I speak a little bit of it. I'm not perfect by any stretch, but yeah. So as an example of my process, is there anything here that would spoil it? Hold on, that's upside down. We're going to cover that. Up, resolution, up, we're going to cover that. Okay, cool. Okay, so Eva Deverell, another mention of her, I guess. One-page novel workshops on YouTube. Well, there's only the one, but yeah. And so I go through that, and that's how I plot my books. It's on one page. You have all the stages of the book, and then you go through and you like plot them out in like this specific way that is not like story related. It's interesting. Thank you, Aunt Vicky. Hi, Tia. So yeah, okay, cool. What time is it? I have not been paying attention to what time. It's only 2:30. You guys, you have to hear me talk for like 30 more minutes. I'm so sorry. In Buffalo With You is going to come out in September. I think I already mentioned. So the paperback for Barcelona is out. I don't think it's connected to, Amazon is weird. I don't think it's specifically connected to the ebook yet, but if you type into Amazon In Barcelona With You paperback, it will pop up. That is officially live. It is $8.99. And then In Barcelona With You, the ebook is usually $2.99, but I dropped it down to 99 cents until Monday. Val says I never follow a script. I need it, or I'll just draw blanks or babble incessantly. Angelique says, what techniques do I use to strengthen my character development in my stories? If only I knew techniques to strengthen character development in stories. I take peeks into their, like, I mentally ask them questions about, like, things that happened in their lives. It's really just a matter of, like, throwing the two of them together and kind of imagining. Some people write out character interviews, and some people, what's the other thing? Some people write out, like, longer conversations and then chop them. I do all of that work inside my head, which is a lot messier, but apparently the way I'm going with things. So I will dream. I just had Carmela and Sebastian. Carmela, of course, speaking English because she does not speak English in the book. So that's fun. I would imagine what Carmela would say if she did speak English, and I would imagine what Sebastian would say if he spoke Spanish. And I just, like, I had them talk to each other in my head, and then I eavesdropped, and then I knew more about their characters because they naturally wanted to talk to each other because they're attracted to each other. Where did I get the name Sebastian and Carmela? Ooh, good question. So Carmela, I have an aunt Carmen, and I've always liked the name Carmen, and I also like Carmen Sandiego, so I stole that name. Alicia is a name that I've always liked, and Carmela, I just loved how it flowed, and I'd never seen it used before in a character or in a book or anything, so I was eager to get that. And then Sebastian's name really doesn't have much of an origin story. I wanted a name that was distinct, but that wasn't so deep into the time period that it sounded weird to modern ears. But I wanted it to be, it couldn't be like John or something, because I might need that name John later, because this series is going to be long. What about plans for a full novel? Am I working on one? Writer's Atelier asks. Yes, I am working on a full novel. It's called Earhart and Noonan's Last Grand Adventure. It is a pain in my neck to write because it's not smarter than me, but when I first wrote it, it was a lot smarter than me. Like I first wrote it when I was, I think, like 17 or 18, maybe 19, one of those. I think I came up with it when I was 17 and started writing at 19. And I just, like, it's literary fiction, and it's like, I did not have the tools to tackle that at that age. So it took like several years of, like, having to work on it. But yeah, Earhart and Noonan's Last Grand Adventure. I'm not going to publish that independently like I've done with Barcelona. And Barcelona, I publish myself on the Amazon, or Buffalo and all the others. I will do that one through traditional publishers. So I'm going to try to get an agent. Tia, hi. I'm glad you're proud of me, Tia. Thank you. I'm thinking about you guys all the time. I wish I could go down to Miami and hug you guys, but that is kind of illegal now. It's not illegal, but you know, we all know half the time Ellie Perez and Raquel have to signal for me to stop talking. Yeah, same for me sometimes. You love her name. Thank you. I've liked the name Carmela too. Do I write anything other than historical fiction? What a lovely question, Angelique. I do, in fact, write more than historical fiction. So the tagline for my website is Sherazade Reincarnated, and I chose that for a reason. That reason is that I will write, like, any genre. I have written one comedy short story that is floating on the internet somewhere. If you can find it, kudos to you, but I ain't sharing it. I write fairy tale retellings and mythological retellings. But I don't write them as Megan Fuentes. I write them under a pen name, which I am happy to share. It is Emma Fontaine. She writes fairy tales. We have a book, an anthology coming out called Once Upon Academy, and I wrote not a retelling per se. I wrote about the daughter of the Princess and the Pea and the son of the Ice Maiden, who is like Elsa, but different, but is not the Snow Queen, but is different. So That, and then there's like a bunch of other fairy tale character stuff in there. Valerie Willis is in it, who's in this chat right now. Who else? Names escaped me. Carrie Evelyn, I don't know why that name escaped me. I love her. And a few other friends of mine are in that anthology, and it's going to be super cool. That comes out April 29th. I always think it's the 30th, but like I made sure to cement that in my mind, that Once Upon Academy is available for pre-order now, and it comes out April 29th, and you can just search it on Amazon, you'll find it. So I write lots of things other than historical fiction. I will also be diving into like modern magical realism, as well as like historical magical realism, and possibly other things. I'm trying to remember I have like a web of ideas where like, what is this thing called? The Love Affairs of World's Fair series, that's it. That series will branch out into like, I think I'm up to like 8 other series it's going to branch out into now. One of them is like mysteries solved by little kids, but it's not gonna be children's stories, I don't think. One is like a bunch of witches. A lot of the books, honestly, are gonna include witches. I'm in a mood, guys. I don't know what to tell you. I think they're cool. Tell us about Once Upon Academy. Once Upon Academy is about the school, Once Upon Academy, where descendants of fairy tale characters attend classes that relate to their background and also help them kind of decide what they want to become as children of fairy tale and mythological creatures. Let me see what else about OUA can I tell you. It comes out April 29th. You can find chapters. If you go to fuentespens.inc/links up there, which, you know, it's one link, so it's nice and easy. There's a button that says fairy tale, like fairy tale retellings, says the button. And if you click on that, you will be eventually, and scroll down past the subscriber thing and click the link there, you'll be taken to like a bunch of samples of all the stories. What else? They're modern. The characters themselves are more modern, like Disney's Descendants. But what's my character's name? Adeline comes from a world where it is not modern at all. She lives like more like Beauty and the Beast style. Books on the other side. More like Beauty and the Beast style, but it's not. So she doesn't have like a cell phone, and there's like stuff about cell phone. It's great. Who's my favorite author? Do I think my style has influenced mine? I'd love to tell you that I have a favorite author. Do I actually? Not really, and it's just a matter of like, I don't know. If I had to pick, I have writers that I admire, but like specific ones where I've read every single book that they've put out, I don't have one of those. I think it's because I don't read probably as much as I should, because I read for like 10 minutes and then I'm like, oh, I have this great idea, and then I go do that. Or I get so sucked into reading I lose the whole day. I've been timing myself now, so I'm a little bit better about that, but it's not a perfect system. I definitely stayed up until 3 a.m. to finish a book the other day. So I don't have a favorite author, but I do think, who's influenced me? Who's the guy who wrote you know the thing, with the brick that hung in the air in the exact same way bricks don't. I'm almost there. Hold on. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. His sense of humor, I adore, and I like take a lot of that from him. My love of like playing with language things, which comes up in story ideas, but nothing I've written yet. Comes from George Orwell, 1984. And then Jane Austen. I love the wit of Jane Austen. Where do I publish my flash fiction? I don't really have a place where I publish it consistently. I have like a couple pieces published, but they're scattered across. Like one is in Likely Read Lit Mag, one is on funnyand500.com, radically different types of stories. I might start publishing them on my website, actually, if you guys think that's a good idea. You just bought the actual book when this whole thing lifts, you need to sign it. Sure thing, Dawn. I will absolutely sign your book. April 29th is your birthday. Yay! Barbie, happy early birthday. Only a few weeks, yay. Happy birthday, Barbie. I love magical realism. I love magical realism. I don't know what it is about it, but it's like, yes, I do. It's fantasy light. That's what I like most about it, is I don't have to do as much mental work for magical realism as I do for fantasy. Who inspired me to write? And when did I know I want to be an author, Dawn asks. I didn't have like a person who was like, ooh, you've inspired me from the beginning. I had like certain books that I would reread over and over and over and over again. Like there was one book by, I think, Suzanne something called Reincarnated, about different people reincarnating into different, and like I would get stuck on books that I really liked. But specifics, of course, don't come to mind. So that's inspired me to write. But the person who told me that I was a writer, the person who was like, Megan, you have like a thing that is like relevant to the art of writing, you should maybe pursue that, is a woman named Mrs. Pack. And she was my fourth grade English teacher, and fourth grade language arts teacher, fourth grade language arts teacher. And she just kind of like, I always wrote stories with my spelling words. Always. They ranged from murder mystery to probably other things, but I think mostly it was murder mystery stories. I was a weird child, as many of you can attest. As soon as Miss Pack took me aside and said, hey, you've been writing stories with your spelling words. They're pretty good. And you've been getting like high scores in all the writing things. Have you ever considered being an author? I was like, oh, sold. Like, that's it. That's what I'm going to be forever. That's going to be my thing. From then on, anything that I did, I always had in the back of my mind, anything I pursued, like teaching, I pursued for a while. Anything I pursued, I would always have like, but I will write in the back of my head. So yeah, I wrote even like a book while in that fourth grade class. It did not survive because I found it when I was older, and I was like, we don't need Farmer in the Dell. But I kind of wish I kept it. My dad said I would wish that, and I didn't. When did I know I wanted to be an author? I wanted to know then. Hi, Keith. It is a Beauty and the Beast themed mug, so it's got, like, Jessica has the same one. Books and Roses. Jessica, who is also a historical fiction writer, and Carrie is a is a contemporary romance author, and Stephanie, who is an author as well. Candace Colt is an author. All of my friends here are authors, and they're good. And then this is I Want Adventure in the Great White Somewhere. I love these fonts. I love them. It is Beauty and the Beast themed, Carrie. So hard to find a place. Website probably best. Yeah, I should probably post on the website. I might consider doing that. I don't know if I need another thing to do per se. For those who don't know, I'm also the administrative assistant for Writers Atelier, and I am the assistant for Carrie Evelyn, her work. So I keep myself busy, and then I help lots of other people. I design ads now for books and authors. I do lots of things. Proof would be so cool. Okay, cool. I'm glad. We have about 12 minutes till the end. I'm thinking I'm gonna pull names for the giveaway, like towards like the last 5 minutes. Keep your mug on your desk. It's perfect for note cards. Yeah. Maybe in a past life this would have been a decorative mug, but I needed coffee and this was the clean one. So a clean one. I'm lying. It was the clean one, but I'm busy. I'm busy. I can't unload a dishwasher right now. And Writer's Atelier asks, what's my favorite color? Oh, okay. So will just give me things to talk about now. Yellow is my favorite color. You can tell because it's on the mug a little bit, kind of more goldish. And then yellow on my dress. Yellow is an accent color on my website. Maybe I should have made it the full-on color, but I made it an accent. Yeah, that's my favorite color, and I love florals. Like, they are my absolute. Oh, thank you. Ready to play? Florals are my jam. There's flowers on like everything from this to this. If memory serves, I did not put a flower reference in this, but I did put Greek mythology references. Let me talk about that because that's nice and nerdy and something I like to talk about. So, In Barcelona With You has 2 references to Aphrodite. They are both in the transportation of. What are their names? Sebastian and Carmela, who you forget the names of your children, you forget the names of your pets, you forget the names of your characters. I can't keep anybody straight. So there are references to Aphrodite in both of their like transportation. Earhart and Noonan's Last Grand Adventure also has at least one reference off the top of my head to Poseidon, and then probably I'll add another because there's more in these chapters that I'm getting to that I like need to add more. Loading dishwashers is so yesterday. Yes, it is so before times. Stephen Colbert calls the the time before we've been self-isolated, the before times, and now is the after times, and that's just great. I just love that so much. Keith says, hi, Megan, do you have a favorite comic book? I don't have a favorite comic book per se, but there is this thing called Webtoons, question mark, I think. And they have this comic called Lore Olympus, and that is the best thing because it is it's a Greek mythology retelling of the myth of Hades and Persephone, but it is modernized, but also like it's got still a little bit of the old school in it, but also it has like Cupid and Psyche as like a concept make an appearance, and like I don't think he's called, whatever. All my names are blending together. Thetis, I don't know these names, make an appearance. Just like everyone from like the Pantheon, like is like in that, and it's so good. I highly recommend it. I'm also reading The Wrath and the Dawn on Webtoons. So those are good comics. They're web comics, but you know. Marcy says I'm a natural. Thank you, Marcy. I'm trying my best here. I can't wait to go back through and bomb your notifications by putting hearts on every single one of these. I'm excited. What time is it now? It's 2:52. Okay, so I am going to pull a name for winning a paperback copy now. I'll give you like the last 2 minutes. Like if you want either the proof or the final copy, again, making sure the final will take a little longer, but it's all like pretty and done. Whereas the proof copy has some issues with it. And obviously I will sign whatever it is. And maybe you will get some extra things in there. Who's to say? I'm to say I know what you're going to get in the package, but you don't. And that's what makes it fun for me. So I am going to pull a name for winning a paperback copy, but while I'm doing that, I will tell you that I want to give away something else on Monday for people who came to watch or just people who shared. And I'm wondering what would you guys want to win in a giveaway like this? Because I have in this book, so obviously Carmela loves to paint. So I was thinking the watercolor set, but Carrie Evelyn brought up the idea of like a pocket guide to Barcelona, because in here they visit obviously some things that are kind of relevant to the city because they're in it, so like landmarks and things. So that is another thing that I could give away. So which of those two, if you had to give something away, or if you had to win something? Carrie wants to see the places, yes. Angelique wants to see the pocket guide, good, that's awesome. Both sound awesome, pocket guide. Okay, cool. Carrie is so smart because I was like, no, share this everywhere. The world should be Meganized. I kind of agree. No, I would really appreciate it if you shared. That would mean the world to me. Okay, you guys, that's it for me. I have learned the things I wanted to learn. You have learned things that I wanted you to learn, and probably some things that neither of us were expecting to learn or be taught were spoken today. Let's see. Okay, I don't think I have any more questions. Thank you, Carrie, for live coaching me through this. Okay, where to find me? I am everywhere. I am on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc. I'm not on TikTok. Don't look for me. I ain't there. I cannot muster the whatever it is to do videos. I can't do it, guys. Not every day. I'll get pretty for you once a week or something, and then that's enough. So I'm not on TikTok, but I'm on everything else and on absolutely everything. Pinterest, everything. I am Fuentes Pens, which is the same as the URL which is the bilingual pun. Fuentes Pens, because the word Fuentes means fountains, but it's my last name, so but fountains, pens, ink. I was really happy when I found out .ink was a thing. I was so ludicrously happy. So yeah, you can find me if you go to fuentespens.ink at all, you will see on the side. I'm also on Goodreads. I am on Goodreads. I'm not on Goodreads as Fuentes Pens. You will have to search Megan Fuentes. Goodreads still eludes me in terms of how to work it. But don't worry, I'm gonna get better. I've got goals in mind. I've set them. I did it thanks to Writer's Atelier for doing that social media marketing class with Candy Steiner. Oh boy, I've got big plans. Y'all are gonna get so sick of my face if you're not already. I have coffee probably all over, but that's okay. You can tell that the coffee started to kick in because I got a little bit more talkative. I think I'm just stalling the ending now. Hi, Laura. Hello, Logan. My boyfriend, ladies and gentlemen, showed up. Hello. It is over. Are you going to tell me to come back inside? No, you just gave me a bunch of hearts. Okay, I'm gonna leave to prevent anything from happening. So number 66, you did win either the final or the proof of the thing, and I will comment who that is momentarily. I'm gonna end the live video now before anything happens that I cannot predict. Logan is spamming the heart button. I love you guys. Yeah, goodbye.